chapters 348 to 349. The red-headed young man was clearly barely keeping himself from retorting if the massive frown and narrowed eyes plastered on his face were any indications. It was ever so obvious to Ray that he did not deal with clients often, and this was just a special circumstance. Ray lifted his eyebrow at the three companions of the man, causing them to give him an apologetic smile, which made him blink in realization. Wait, so he really has no idea who we are? He shot the redhead who was glaring at Nadetsu an incredulous look before his lips twitched in amusement. Who would have thought they would send Akasuna no Sasori as our bodyguard? Ray quipped, earning himself 2 male groans and 1 female chuckle from Sasori's companions. His remark did its job superbly as Sasori stopped having a stare-off with Tsunade and gave Ray an appraising look. Not a moment later, however, the tension in the air as if drained and Sasori's face became blank as he donned his professional face and nodded at Ray. Much to my misfortune, I was ordered to take these 3 genins. He slowly leaned his head in the direction of his 3 companions. To the Chunin exams in Konoha and complete this escort mission on the way. He said in an even and monotonous voice with just a small hint of displeasure. Tsunade snorted and crossed her hands on her chest. She knew she nor Ray requested this mission. When she saw just who was blocking their path, it was obvious why Pakura seemed so pleased when she heard about their date in Takigakure and that they intend to walk to Konoha from there. I will have to kick her ass during one of our spars. This is blatant gloating. She is basically showing off her Genin team to me, knowing I have nothing that could match it among Konoha's teams. Tsunade understood the subtle dig for what it was. Sasori forcefully ignored Nadetsu's snort and continued speaking. I am Sasori. The fan-wielding girl is Tamari. The boy in the cat suit is Kankuro, and the one with the sand gourd is Gara. We will make sure nothing happens to you on your journey to Konoha. It was really hard to stop his lips from twitching for Ray as he watched Sasori conducting himself in the best professional manner he could. It was obvious he definitely did not want to be here and wanted to be done with the mission as fast as possible. Ray really tried, he really did. But it was just far too good of an opportunity not to troll him. Inclining his head at the 3 genins, Ray smiled. That's good to hear. We really needed somebody to carry our shopping bags. He started in a serious tone. You see, I and Nadetsu are planning to stop in every single town along the road for sightseeing. According to Nadetsu, she doesn't get many chances to travel, so she decided to use every opportunity she can to shop around. I am sure you will keep us safe during the following days. You have my gratitude, he said in a faux, grateful tone, and just watched as Sasori's eyes started to slightly widen in a barely veiled horror when he heard that Ray could almost discern the colorful curses aimed at Pakura. The redhead must have been using in his head from his disgruntled eyes as he barely kept himself from spluttering in indignation while Tsunade guffawed at Sasori's misfortune, shooting Ray a mirthful look. I didn't know I wanted to go on a shopping spree. Her eyes sparkled in amusement. Well, now you do, Ray's eye smile conveyed, causing her to almost burst out in laughter straight in Sasori's barely hidden sour expression. To be honest, she was somewhat pissed at Sasori's attitude. He and his hate for being left waiting. If she knew they would be waiting for her and Ray here, she would make it her mission to stop at a tea house before leaving Takigakure and leave them hanging for another 2 hours at the very least. He should be blaming Pakura for this. Funnily enough, Sasori wanted to hurry to Konoha because he wanted to meet and thank Tsunade Senju for making the procedure to turn his puppet body back into a human one. He didn't like being delayed since he, as an accomplished medic in his own right, knew exactly how tough and impossible that feat was and how much effort it most likely took for Tsunade to create this method. He had nothing but utmost gratitude and reverence for the woman. I understand, Sasori ground out, his eyes glaring at Nadetsu, who was the source of the upcoming impromptu shopping trip through the cities along the way. Stupid, arrogant, self-centered, rich bint, he mentally added. Now then, Ray turned towards the three Genins and asked, "How are you three?" Realizing that Ray didn't intend to keep their relationship secret from Sasori, they instantly got less standoffish. Gaara's tense posture relaxed. Kankuro's scowl eased almost into a grin. And Tamari disappeared in a burst of shunshin and glomped Ray into a tight embrace. "Wait! What the heck is happening?" Sasori looked between Gaara, Kankuro, and Tamari, glued to their client's chest in bewilderment. Did his team know the client or something? Ray awkwardly patted Tamari's head, making her go rigid. "It's been a while. How is your wind mastery?" he asked, looking at the girl and noticing the profound blush she tried to hide by burrowing her head into his chest. I got better, Sensei," Tamari subduedly answered. "I missed you, though," she added, and her hold on Ray became a bit more possessive. Tsunade lifted an eyebrow at that. At first, she was utterly shocked that the blonde glomped on Ray. She really did not expect it. After all, she had no idea her husband had time to frolic with young girls while she was hard at work, managing a ninja village for him. But when she noticed how panicked and utterly lost Ray looked, she instead grinned and enjoyed his dismay. No. From what she was seeing, Tsunade realized that her husband had no frigging idea what the heck was going on, or that the girl's small crush on him had grown into a not-so-small one after he deliberately distanced himself from her. If I remember correctly, his words were that it was creepy, seeing a small girl eyeing him with starstruck, expectant eyes full of determination. Looks like his plan totally backfired, though. Tsunade inwardly chortled and patted the head of Fu, who was awkwardly standing next to her. Instead of making the fangirl's crush fade with time, the distance just increased it. If that wasn't hilarious, then Ray's helpless face as he realized this fact certainly was. And it also explains why Pakura is so hell-bent to push the girl in Ray's path. It's basically the exact same situation as with Konan and Izumi. Tsunade shook her head in amusement, deciding to enjoy the show. "Sensei?" Sasori thought in confusion, trying to piece together what the heck was going on. He read Tamari's file, all of it, even the classified one that contained her ANBU career. There was nowhere mentioned she had a teacher for the wind element. "You will show me how much you advanced during our trip to Konoha, then." Ray slightly calmed down and decided to just wing it. Sure. Tamari pulled a bit away, just enough so she could look Ray in the eyes. "I made many new jutsu. I will definitely manage to hurt you," she exclaimed with a small blush creeping up on her cheeks. Hearing her, Sasori's eye twitched. "Oi, we are here to protect them, not to her." "You wish." Ray smirked at the girl in his arms. "I do." Tamari pouted. "Eh?" Sasori raised his hand before speechlessly dropping it back, not knowing what to do. "I was just... ignored?" "You do?" Ray tilted his head, not expecting Tamari's reply. "Good. At least I'm not the only one confused here." Sasori released a small, relieved sigh. I will get the promised date," Tamari stated, her blue eyes full of resolve. Even Tsunade lifted her eyebrow at that. "How does harming the client get you a date?" Sasori inwardly pondered, his confusion only growing. Oh, Ray exclaimed as he remembered what she was talking about. "That's some really old promise you are swinging at me, Mari-chan," he jokingly chided. "Promise is a promise," Tamari firmly stated, but her gaze seemed quite uncertain and questioning, as if she was asking a silent question. "Promise is a promise." An amused voice repeated in Ray's head, earning itself a mental nudge from Ray, causing it to retreat with mirthful laughter. "I guess I did promise." Ray nodded in acceptance of his fate. "What did the past me think when making this promise? Hurt me and you get a date?" Seriously, past me. That wasn't the brightest moment of my life. I give up. Let's just accept that they know each other and that Tamari trying to injure our client in some twisted attempt at flirting with him will be supremely annoying in the following days. Sasori tiredly sighed and rubbed his forehead to prevent the arising headache. He threw a look at Kankuro, silently informing him he was on the sister-watching duty from now on, but the boy just lazily shrugged. He would try Gaara. If he wasn't certain, the kid would just ignore him. The youngest was for some reason oddly fixated on protecting his extremely scary and violent sister that did not need any protection. Sasori inwardly lamented his fate. Really, he just had to get the most handful team into his care. I really need a moment of peace, just me and my puppets. He wistfully shook his head. Akasuna no Sasori. We have come for your head. Two figures abruptly appeared in front of the group, shattering Sasori's heartfelt desire to pieces. You gotta be kidding me! Sasori robotically turned his deadpan gaze at them and instantly noticed it was his past colleagues from Akatsuki, as he got the sudden urge to scream himself hoarse at some unwitting poor sod. Akasuna no Sasori. We have come for your head. As the two new arrivals announced their presence, Tamari instantly jumped out from Rei's embrace, positioning herself in front of him and Tsunade in a defensive stance with her battle fan fully open. Kankuro and Gaara reacted similarly and now stood next to Tamari, blocking easy access to their clients and prepared for a fight, while Fu, who was previously hiding behind Tsunade out of shyness, was now also protectively standing in front of her. It was quite cute, in Tsunade's opinion. Sasori's reaction was much more subdued. He slowly turned towards his would-be assassins and sighed in frustration, his shoulders slumping as he became resigned to the bullshit happening around him. The very first time I leave Sunagakure since my defection from Akatsuki and this happens. Just my luck. He mentally grumbled. Naturally, he was fully aware that this happened exactly because this was the first time he left Sunagakure. This was the first opportunity for Akatsuki to show him the error of his ways without prematurely revealing their existence or having to face the entire village of ninjas. He done Kakuzu. What an unpleasant surprise, Sasori said in a dry tone and sluggishly inclined his head, acknowledging their presence with an unbothered, bored gaze that instantly pissed Haiden off. Oi! What do you mean, you bastard? This is a pretty good occasion. You should be happy to be sacrificed to Jashin-sama, he excitedly shouted, causing everyone to deadpan at him. Even Kakuzu face-palmed at that and let out a long, suffering groan. Excuse the moron. He is a new and not-so-bright addition. I'm almost certain they recruited him just to make me stop killing my partners for being annoying. In fact, after a month with this idiot, I indeed started regretting killing my last partner. He dryly stated, I feel sorry for you. Sasori replied, showing a measure of understanding. Not. While the would-be combatants were having their pre-battle banter, Rei and Tsunade made themselves comfortable, sitting down and resting their backs on a nearby tree, watching the proceedings. Frankly, neither had any idea why Kakuzu and Haiden didn't try to ambush them. From what they were seeing, however, it seemed the two were not the brightest tools in the elemental nations, so there was that. Tamari, Gaara, I will take on the stupid one. You two take on the stupider one while Kankuro and the green-haired little girl from Taki defend the clients, Sasori ordered. Understood, the three Sanjanins replied, and their formation instantly shifted. Kankuro stayed in front of Rei and Tsunade, but Tamari and Gaara distanced themselves from them in preparation to engage the enemy. And why would we go along with your battle plan? It is obvious that fighting team versus team will be better for us despite your numerical advantage, Kakuzu asked in mild amusement. Not that he thought separating would be a problem. Zetsu did his scouting and information gathering and found out Sasori was accompanying a genin team on their way to Konoha while also doing a mission in between. The only reason why they attacked now, instead of sooner, was that the clients would make this engagement extremely disadvantageous for Sasori. If, for some incomprehensible reason, Kakuzu and Haidan had a hard time dealing with Sasori, they could always just target the important clients, and Sasori will have to focus on protecting them. Not that Kakuzu thought it would come to that. 2 S-rank ninjas against 1 S-rank and a bunch of genins? This will be a piece of cake. Because it is obvious you two are just that stupid, Sasori deadpanned in reply, and Kakuzu started to get annoyed. He was about to retort again, but apparently he failed to take into account Haiden's short fuse. Hidan didn't like being called stupid by a traitor, and as anger took over, he charged at Sasori, shouting in anger and brandishing his scythe in a threatening manner. "No! Stop, you moron!" Kakuzu exclaimed in surprise, only now realizing Sasori's words were not aimed at him, but at Haiden. Sasori didn't react to Haiden's charge in any way, just dispassionately looking at him as he was quickly closing the distance, and Kakuzu instantly realized it was a trap. It was too late, however. Haiden was almost upon Sasori, his rageful focus fully aimed at the young-looking redhead. The only warning he got was subtly rising winds in the area before a massive influx of crushing winds in the form of a barely visible wind snake suddenly slithered around Sasori, rushing at the incoming Haiden. The Jashinist managed to only widen his eyes as the snake made of winds opened its jaw and smashed straight into his waist. Haiden was swept from his feet due to the extreme wind pressure, and the snake-like wind construct caught him in its jaws, carrying him through the air. Normally, a wind jutsu would simply blow him back, but Kakuzu cursed as he watched the wind snake do something that was deemed impossible for wind jutsus once they are released. It twisted mid-air, changing direction and pushing the struggling and bleeding Haiden away from him while creating multiple gashes all over his body. Something told Kakuzu he would not be getting time to stitch his partner up. The bigger problem, though, was that it was not Sasori who used the wind jutsu. In an instant, Kakuzu adjusted his mindset. What he thought to be an easy job was shaping up to be slightly more troublesome. His first reaction was to run towards Haiden, not letting them be separated since he doubted Haiden could beat someone capable of such a strong, ranged wind jutsu. Frankly, he didn't doubt Haiden's power. He doubted his intelligence. Haiden clearly had enough brute strength and endurance to face S-rank ninja, but he was not a very bright guy. A ranked wind user who could dice and slice him from afar was the moron's natural enemy, with his penchant for rushing in head-on and whatnot. Unfortunately for Kakuzu, his instincts abruptly screamed at him, forcing him to jump back, widening the distance between him and Haiden even more, as a large pyramid made of iron dust almost flattened him. "See?" Sasori smugly asked, trying to distract Kakuzu as he inwardly focused on shaping the objects from the iron dust. He made use of Kakuzu's short distraction and surprise when Tamari revealed her jutsu to summon his third KasiCair puppet without being noticed. Kakuzu couldn't answer as a cube of iron sand flew at him, making him dodge, much to his frustration, again in a direction that got him further from his partner. The cube landed and Kakuzu managed to evade it, but as he was about to go into offensive, the cube suddenly lost its shape and spikes erupted from its surface, forcing Kakuzu to hastily step back. It wasn't the end, though. New spikes arose from the old spikes as the iron dust shifted, causing Kakuzu to inwardly curse as he was yet again made to back off even more. The spikes were dangerously aimed at his chest area, and Kakuzu realized the puppet bastard was fully using the intel he gathered during his time in Akatsuki. He obviously knew his biggest advantage and weakness. The same trick wouldn't work multiple times. When the iron dust again rearranged itself to create a new set of spikes rushing at Kakuzu, he, instead of jumping back again, crouched as his hands blurred into a sequence of quick seals. All he needed was a small breathing room to shift from defense to offense. "Wind release! Pressure damage!" he exclaimed, creating a current of highly pressurized winds and making it smash into the iron dust. When he saw Kakuzu forming his hand seals, Sasori cursed and scrambled to counter it. He only barely managed to predict what technique his opponent was about to use and made his KasiCair puppet gather its iron dust, shifting it from spikes to a wall. He couldn't let it reach his genins, or worse, the clients. Wind release. Pressure damage was a far too widespread jutsu, and Sasori was fully aware Kakuzu used it only because he had no regard for Heiden's well-being. Well, Heiden should be strong enough to deal with some genin brats. I guess I will have to deal with Sasori by myself. Kakuzu grinned as he watched his technique battle with the wall of iron dust for supremacy. His winds would eventually lose. That much he knew. But this earned him a much-needed window of opportunity. His hands again blurred into another set of hand seals as he announced, "Lightning release. False D." Kakuzu's eyes widened as he noticed a tendril of iron dust coming at him from the back. Realizing his intel on the amount of iron dust Sasori could manipulate through his puppet was too outdated, Kakuzu spun on his heel, "Arcness!" and finished his technique, causing a massive and very concentrated lightning strike to intercept the incoming iron dust, unhappy that he was unable to throw it at Sasori. Lightning release. False darkness was not a defensive technique, but its eclectic properties electrified the iron dust, making it huddle together into a blob and causing Sasori's control to slightly slip. He was unable to continue with his surprise attack. Fortunately for Sasori, Kakuzu's wind technique was finished and his iron wall managed to keep it contained. He could once again stop focusing on its form and let it crumble into a dune of iron dust, only giving it a small nudge to create a wave of iron dust rushing at Kakuzu. Kakuzu naturally dodged it with ease, but that didn't matter. Sasori's next attack was already prepared. All he had to do was to keep Kakuzu occupied and away from Heiden. If he was attacked when alone, Sasori would be mildly worried. Attacking him when he was escorting the Suna siblings, now that was a mistake. He was one of Sunagakure's higher-ups, and while he was not privy to many secrets because of his past, he at the very least knew that Tamari was one of the village's best ANBU, Kankuro was his on-and-off student, and Gaara had his own reputation. If you think I will just roll over and die for you, then you have another thing coming. I plan to spend many, many years creating my artworks. Unfortunately for you, that means you will have to die here. Sasori coldly smirked as he felt a huge chakra fluctuation coming from a distance away. Suddenly, a massive wave of sand rose towards heaven in the distance behind Sasori, before falling down and leveling a good part of the forest with the ground, creating a small ocean of sand and broken trees. Kakuzu's eyes widened at the scale of that attack in the distance, and for the first time, he started to have doubts about Heiden's capability to deal with these genins. I will have to hurry this up. There is no way I can face whatever little monster that can cause that much damage and Sasori at the same time. If I fail to kill Sasori before his brats deal with Heiden, I will have to retreat. He sourly realized and clicked his tongue. Well, it was better to live and get scolded by the leader rather than lay down his life for this no longer so easy mission. Seeing Kakuzu's brief faltering, Sasori couldn't help but feel a bit amused. I almost pity the fools. They thought I would be an easy target only to unknowingly attack one of Sunagakure's strongest teams. It is definitely not me who is the most dangerous person here.